YouTube, welcome to another tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a fire effect. If I open up this little dribble shot I did, this was December last year. I made this pretty cool looking fire, so I'm going to walk you through exactly how to build this. So I'm going to jump into Illustrator and we'll start by drawing these logs. Let's crack on. So first things first, we'll make a new layer for our background. Let's just turn the stroke off. We'll go for like a darkish blue. And we'll make this the size of the canvas. Let's just look to the GIF again. So I'm going to teach you as well how to do this sort of light effect where you've got your background and then obviously what's in the light is a different colour, so we've got these browns. I'm going to show you a simple version, but when you learn this effect you can then do more complicated backgrounds and it's really easy to do. So let's just crack on. So we'll make a floor as well. Which will zoom up about 3/4 of the way. That looks fine. We'll make this wall a little bit lighter. Maybe not. Maybe we'll make the floor darker because I want it to be quite dark in contrast to the fire. There we go, that's nice. Let's make a new layer for the floor. Label these quickly. So we've got background and floor. Right. So let's start by drawing the sort of glow which the fire sits on. So we'll just make this like a yellowy colour. Yellowy orange. Something like that will do. We'll just center that up and we'll call this glow. Actually what I'm going to do quickly is we'll duplicate these layers. So this background here we'll make the sort of brown colour. Something like that. So we'll do similar colours to that one, and we'll do the pig whip to get that colour, and we'll just make the floor darker. That'll do nicely for this tutorial. Don't spend too long on the colours. Alright, so let's start by drawing the log. That's a nicer colour than what I've got going on. Let's change the glow slightly. We'll select this sort of light brown colour and just give it a bit more yellow. Oh. Yeah, that'll do. Alright, so let's draw the logs. So these are really simple. They're just basically circles with stretched out squares and a circle on the end. So let's do that. I'm even gonna nick this colour for the end and then just make it a little bit lighter. Maybe not lighter actually. Let's get a nice sort of colour going, that'll do. Just holding Alt and Shift, we can drag out a new square, and this is the end part. So we're going to make this slightly darker than our floor, just so there's some separation between the two colours. And then we'll draw a square like so. And with the first square, we'll just bring that to the front. Wrong shortcut. So there we go. So this is how I built the log shape, and then we'll just quickly, with the spiral tool, just draw that, and if you press up and down on your keyboard you can add more to the curve or less to the curve. So I'm just going to curve it out, something like that. I'm going to select our dark color, press in Shift X, we can switch it to the stroke, and we're just going to whack that up to about 4 points. And then using the line tool, which I can never remember what the shortcut is for the line tool. It's definitely not pound sign. Backward slash. I think my Mac keyboard thing is not working properly on Windows, but never mind. Using the line tool, we'll just draw some lines across our wood as well. If we select these lines, we'll select this color, Shift X, add 4 points again. Boom, there we go, we've got a log. If we just select it all, we'll just hit Shift G to group it. Not Shift G, what am I doing? Command G, that groups it. We'll just center that up, and we'll hold Shift and Alt to duplicate it. We're gonna switch these colors around, move this over here, make this the dark color, and we'll bring these two to the front, and we've got another log. I'm just gonna scale this in. Move these around a bit so they look a bit different compared to the first one. Maybe add an extra line. Got our second log. I'm just gonna check it behind the first one. Is that what I did? Yeah, just basically stacked a few logs. And we'll do one more. Let's rotate this one, send it to the back, and we'll drop it right below this one. I'm trying not to spend too long on this, so that will do for our log fire. We'll just nudge that line up a bit, so it looks a bit nicer. Let's just center that. That will do nicely. So now we're going to ungroup these logs and put them on separate layers. So we'll call this log 1. Log 2 and log 3. Now I took mine a little bit further, and I've put these kind of glowing highlights on the top of the logs, so we'll add those in as well real quick. Basically all that is you get the line tool, and we're just going to draw a line over the top, and we'll make a reddish color for one bit. We'll chuck in this yellowy color. Finally we'll do a white. As fire, when it gets to the center it burns white because it's at its most hottest. We could add in some orange as well, but for the sake of this tutorial I'm just going to do these 3 colors, and I'm just going to put a bit of a red tip over here as well. Sweet. And then we'll select these, and we'll call this glow. Actually, we'll call this glow 3, and we'll copy those, put a new layer above log 2, paste them, and we're just going to drag these onto the logs here. this one glow 2. And finally we'll do the first log, glow 1. And obviously you can vary these up, but I'm not going to bother for the sake of this tutorial. That's all we need for now, so we'll click save. Really need to figure out this resolution thing because this is annoyingly big. I'm just going to check it on the desktop, and I'm going to call this fire. Just going to hit save, and okay. Alright, just going to quickly make a new folder here. Fire tut. And I'll check this in. Smashing. Alright, let's jump into After Effects. Have a bit of water. Alright, we're going to import the file we just made. So if we go to our desktop or wherever you've saved yours. Ah, oh, OneDrive, seriously, go away. Alright, fire, here we go. Composition, retain layer sizes, and import. So let's firstly, we're going to pre-comp our floor layers. So we'll turn everything off for now. So these two layers, if we pre-comp these, pre-compose, this is background light, and we'll pre-compose the back one, background dark. So what we're going to do is, back in Photoshop, this is not Photoshop, back in, what is this called, Illustrator. It's a Sunday night, forgive my lack of brain functions. We're going to draw a semicircle, so we're just going to chop off the bottom of a circle with the white arrow tool. We're going to position that on top of the sort of edge between the floor and the wall, and we're going to copy this for the bottom here too, but we're going to stretch this one up so we get this kind of, I don't even know what shape you'd call it, get this crushed egg shape, that's what I'm going to call that, something like this. So then we're going to copy these paths, go into After Effects, and with the pen tool we're just going to click and then hit paste. Okay, I've only copied the first path, that's not a problem. So with Mark Mograph's clever script, we're just going to center this up and then hit center just to make sure it's about right, and we're just going to visually try and line this up on the edge. I'm going to go here, and I'll go back to Illustrator and copy this shape. Do the same again, pen tool, make sure you deselect this layer though, pen tool, paste, and then we've got the bottom half of our oval. Again, it's going to center the anchor point using Mount MoGraph, drag this down, zoom in, and just visually line this up. Nice. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pre-compose this, and we're going to call this, no, we'll just call it glow. So let me use my head. We're now going to attach that like that, sorry, so the anchor points on the top of this circle, semicircle, and on the bottom of this one, and using the scale parameters, we're going to hold Alt and we're going to add a wiggle. And let's just play with 2 times 30. See what that looks like. That is crazy. Right, let's zoom in because I'm in a silly amount of time here. Let's just crop to 10 seconds quickly, and we'll just hit and there. Let's change that to 5. So what this should be doing is telling it to wiggle, if I've got this right, 2 times per second 5 pixels. So we're getting some pixel movement in our glow. And how is that looking at real time? That's still looking like it's wiggling a fair bit. Instead of 2, we're going to go to 1. And we'll go lower than 5 as well. We'll go 2. How does that look? That's more what I had in mind. Yes, we've got this nice kind of wiggle effect. So now we're going to right click on scale, copy expression, and we're going to check it on this scale too. So then we should have, why is this bottom one not doing it? Let's try that again. I don't think that worked for some reason. Wow. Oh no, there we go. It is wiggling ever so slightly. Cool. So we've got this wiggle. I'm going to check that up to 3 on both of these. So now we've got our wiggle glow. What we're going to do with the light background is going to toggle switches here and tell it to be alpha matte. So now where those circles are is revealing the light for the floor and the wall. You could even take this slightly further if you wanted to and chuck a Gaussian blur on the glow. And if you whack this up, let's go to say 100, you then get a feathered edge. I don't know if I did that on mine. No, I quite liked the sort of crisp look on mine. That's what I was going for the specific film I was making there. But yeah, so this is how you get the sort of dual color glows that I've done. I did this, I've had a few requests for how I did the, I'm not even sure if it's still on my website, let's just double check. Nope, I replaced it with this because this is the light scene I did using this effect. As you can see around here, it's the same effect, but I've masked the whole scenes. So if I play this little section, it's right at the start.
We all know there's one man who really makes.
Let's go back. I missed it. So as you watch here, you'll see it cropping, especially on the tree. So I've basically done the same process, which is with these different colored backgrounds, but taken a lot further and having loads of elements. So the tree here was originally like our Illustrator file. Turn these off. So in the dark layer we would have had the tree drawn out as well in like a sort of dark blue color palette, and then in the light version, which is here, we had like the oranges and the browns and the greens, and then the individual shapes of the colors of the baubles and stuff. So then when you apply the glow on these two separate layers, you get the effects that I've gone for there. So that's how I've done that. I also did it on that rat video, which is on Behance now somewhere. Let's see if I can find that. For Girl and Boy Studio. If I cut forward, when it finally kicks in. So I did it the same thing with the light. I had the individual rats rigged and parented and with expressions to the different color versions of the animation. I might do a detailed tutorial on that later on, because you have to do like expression rigs to get the characters to follow the same motion, but it's the same sort of principle. You then just mask out the area of the light version, which is then animated for this swinging back and forth light. But I might do a tutorial on that as well. But anyway, just crack on with this. So now we've got our light and our background divided with the glow. We're just gonna actually copy this expression because I like the pace of that. We're going to put it on the opacity of this glow and the scale. So now that should be flickering in color, as well as, actually sorry, no, the opacity one's going to be really low. We need to crank this right up. So instead of 3, because you're not going to notice that, we'll just check in 100. 100's way too much because that's going to be actually disappearing. We'll go to 50. So that's basically saying once every second it's going to wiggle the amount by 50 pixels, or well, it's not pixels on opacity, so it's percent. So if you watch my over here, when I slide my scrubber, you can see it's moving back and forth a fair bit, which is cool. So now we'll have this kind of flickering glow on here with the background. But we could actually copy this expression and check it on the light background as well. So then you'll get the darker blues leaking through as well. Let's do a round preview. There you go. So we've got this kind of like flicker that you would experience if you were sat in front of a fire, which is pretty nice. Anyway, let's crack on. I'm just going to close it off at 5 so we're not rendering so much. We'll leave the logs as they are and let's start building the fire. So we'll go composition, new, and we'll just call this, not fire, we'll call this flame. Maybe 25 frames. I'm assuming that's what this would have imported as. Nope. Okay, it's just, I haven't actually thrown any keyframes down yet, so it's all good. 25 frames is usually industry standard, so we'll just quickly adjust our layers so they're all animating on the same frame rate. No problem at the minute, but if we've added keyframes, that can be a bit of a nightmare. So yeah, make sure you're animating on 25 frames. We'll do it to the background as well. Not that this particularly matters for this tutorial, but it's good practice to make sure you're animating on the right frame rate for all of your project. And a good way to check is if you hit tilde over here, you get the extra information and you can see everything's on 25, which is what we want. Run that in. Right, let's crack on with this flame. So we're gonna use the circle tool. Actually what we're gonna do is use the exact red I used on these glows. So let's just zoom in here, select that layer, and we're going to copy this code into here, and we've got this red. So we'll draw a circle, we'll center this up, and I'm just going to make this slightly smaller. That will do. So we're going to call this base, and we'll call this one trail. So I've duplicated the circle, sorry. So what I'm going to do now is check the position and scale properties on this trail layer, and over the course of, let's say, 4 seconds, we'll just preview this. We're going to drag the trail up, something like that, and put the scale to 0. And we'll just chuck a render in on that. See what that's looking like. That could work. I'm just going to quickly save this project because we haven't done a save yet. If my computer crashes now, we'll all be upset. We'll call it fire. Right. Gonna hit F9 on my keyframes, and I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna use that tool because that messes up. Yep, we're gonna do fast to slow for fire. I think that makes sense because the heat rushes quickly from the center and then it eases off as it trails away. So we'll have a look at that. That's kind of what I want, but that's too slow. Let's knock this to roughly 2 seconds. Let's have a look at that now. That's looking better. Right. So then we're going to use another expression here. We're going to alt click here and we're going to write loop, capital O U T for loop out, and we're going to open brackets. I'm going to hit whatever that button's called. Where's that? Never mind, my brain is not working. And we're going to write this expression here, loop out cycle, to make that constantly loop. So we're going to have this nice. Sorry, no, that's not going to work because we need to come to the next frame after it finishes and copy these back in. Now it will loop and repeat. What's going on here? I fucked. No? What was? Oh, of course, yeah. I've only put the loop out expression on the position value, so we're going to copy and put it on scale as well. So now we'll get a constant loop of our circle fading up. So that will do. Just do a quick save. So now we're going to come back to this layer and we're going to chuck our flame in front of log3. We're going to just scale this down 50%, and we're going to basically position the base nicely in the center, sort of between this log and this log. And now when we hit play, we've got this fire moving up. And that's the end of the tutorial, folks. Yeah, no, I'm only joking. Right, so let's go and put some effects on to make this look like fire. What am I after? What did I use? My brain is not working to that. I know there was a turbulent displace on there, so we're going to check that on. So this will give it some sort of like wobble. So if we add loop time times 100, what we're going to do is just solo this layer so we're not rendering all the other stuff. So now we've got this kind of wobbly effect going on, and these are going to be the parts of the fire that leave the base point, but we'll work on this a little bit more. Let's try and get this more fiery. If we open up the amount, maybe we'll put the size to about 50 and the amount to 100, and we'll just quickly have a look at that. So we kind of got this wobbly base part and this sort of fire bar leaving the section, just looking pretty nice. Feel it needs to be faster, so we'll time times 200. We'll try that. It's giving it more movement. That's looking a bit better. So I believe I chucked that on with a simple choker. If you've watched my smoke effect, it's quite a similar tutorial, but with differences, of course. So the same as we did before, we're going to add a choke on the edge to clean it up, basically, so we get a nice crisper edge, as opposed to without it you start to get blurrier edges in places, and I quite like the clean look, so I like my chokers. I think it just makes the shape when it moves off a lot nicer looking as well. So here we go, we got this kind of moving fire going on, and finally, I say finally, I think that's all I did. I chucked a wave warp on as well to get the if I can find an image of fire. So if you kind of look here, typically fire has air pockets that the air gets drawn in from the bottom, I believe, so it'd be like a circle movement which works its way up because heat rises. So you kind of get this constant circle movement like this and like this. So this causes indents in the flame. So you can see an indent here and an indent here and one here. And there's a bit of one there and there. So these indents basically come into the bottom, which disrupt the base and travel all the way up the flame until the bits like here fly off in individuals where the flame loses connection. So with the wave warp, like the smoke effect as well, we're going to put this to 0 so we get the indents in the flame. We might have to adjust, these are how deep it cuts in, so we don't want it to cut in too deep. We'll maybe make that 20, and we'll adjust the width so we kind of get these cuts in our flame which travel up with the fire and it pops out. So let's just do a proper render. I should probably do it quicker. It kind of gives us that flame look. Like so. I'm going to jump into the flame, maybe make the base a bit bigger. Let's just have a look at that now. I think we need to crank the wave height as well. This is way too much. The width, sorry. Let's go to like 200. Obviously it's just a case of playing with the settings until you get something you think feels right. I don't want to waste too much time, but this is the process I did to make my effect, but obviously I spent more time on it and I think this looks more fiery. So I'm going to move on to the next bit. As you can see, if you focus in on just this front white one, I've basically built so far in this tutorial this section, so we're just going to duplicate this same thing over and over again to get a multi-layered flame, which makes it look a lot more realistic than when you've just got one. So let's crack on with that. Actually, first of all, we're going to add a fill effect to the flame layer, and we're just going to jump back in here, copy this code, and we'll put it here. So we've got our back flame working. We're going to just duplicate this, and what we're going to do is duplicate this again, and on this bottom layer, so this was our first one, I'll colour this one pink. Just pink was a terrible choice. Brown, so that's also a terrible choice. Jesus. Right, so we got, this is the solid flame, and if we look here, you can see we've got this kind of like outliney flame as well, and I've done it in kind of, the front layer is white and this pinky red, so I'm just going to alternate the colours to give it a bit more depth. Sorry, I'm getting like hiccups going on here. So what we're going to do is, with our flame composition above, the flame below, we're going to alpha invert, which if we shine this layer gives us the outline, and I believe it's the flame above we need to adjust the choker. Here we go. So if we drag this further, okay, so we've got 100, so we'll knock this choker down as well to get more of a, so we'll go 115. So now we've got this outline, which will move nicely up like so, giving us outlines effect. So the reason I chucked the fill on is we can now, if we go into here, we'll steal this yellow color, and we'll chuck this on the fire, the fill. So then we can select both of these layers, offset them. Now what we're going to do, because this is going to be exactly the same as the last one, we're going to just knock it slightly back in the timeline, so our flame circle is slightly different, so it's this peak part is rising at a different time. And we're also going to come into the Turbulent Displace settings, and there should be a seed setting. I think it's in evolution. How'd you do it again? Evolution options, random seed. Here we go. And we'll just drag this number so it's slightly different. We'll go to 410. We're going to copy this because we need it to be exactly the same on the map mask. So we'll call it to 110 as well. So they should be the same seed. Now if I hit render, these flames will be moving slightly different, so it doesn't look identical. And then you get these nice like rising fire flames at different times, because we've knocked this in the negative space in our timeline. If I just hit render now, obviously you can see this is pretty RAM intensive. We've also got our glows above our flames, which we don't want, so we're going to just drag them above. So basically all I did now is repeated all of these keyframes in front of the individual layers. So I'm just going to drag them here, and then we'll make this one white. This bottom one can be like the red color we got. So if I use the pit whip, but if we just make it a bit lighter, like this sort of color, and again we're just going to change the random seeds of all of these layers, so it's completely different. And that was in the evolution options. Let's find a new one for that one. And remember, these two need to be the same. So we'll copy that number into this one. And again, we're just going to slide these so they're on different times. And that's pretty much how I made that fire. So now we got this quite cool fire motion going on. You could obviously, to make your fire more unique, is if you duplicated this and changed the scales of these. I'm not going to go into that detail for this because it's just a tutorial, but if you wanted it to look really unique, then you can do that. And the last thing I did is, if you watch, there's these like sparks flying off of the fire, and that was really simple. I just, if I can deselect my layers, I just pretty much drew lines from the fire like that. We'll copy that code and we'll tell it to have no fill, and we'll add a stroke, and the stroke we're going to make red. We'll just lower this down to about 3. Oh, I haven't got butt capper. Okay. There's a really good script called butt capper. Maybe I'll see if I can download it. No, I won't waste your time. But what it does is it gives you a nice little user interface which lets you just click a button which will add rounded caps to the end of your strokes, which is quite nice. So I'm just going to jump into my stroke setting here and change them to round caps. And then all I did for these is added in on a trim path, set it to say 20, keyframe the start. We'll hit U so we can just close our layers now. We'll go right to the start, come forward say 10 frames, slide both of these to 100 and close the layer. And we'll just quickly hit F9, jump into the keyframe editor. That hand and drag in the graph editor is a bane unto my existence using PC. It's rather frustrating. Right, so we'll make sure we can see these before we start editing them. What we're going to do is just make this a really fast slow motion, so it's like it pops out of the fire. We'll just have a quick preview of that. So there we go, we got these sparks popping out. 10 frames is looking quite extreme. We'll knock them forward a bit. We'll try again. That's looking nicer. So then basically all I did, we'll call this spark. Just duplicate the layer, change the color to yellow, and then if you hold command and click this toggle arrow, your path property comes up, so we can just select the path. We'll move this over here. We'll just drag the handles out differently. Just drag this one so it comes from the center here. We'll do that. We'll duplicate it again. Select this handle. We'll make it bounce low. And we'll make this one a pink color. And we'll do it one more time. Check this one up here. It's gonna just fly super high and burn out before it even starts to dip. Because this one's white, so it's come from the center. Boom, done. So we'll just hit U on all these spark layers so we can see them in our timeline. We'll zoom out a little bit. We'll come to 4 seconds. And we'll just space these layers out randomly. And we'll hit zoom out. And we'll hit render. And this is going to take a while because of all the turbulent displace and wave warp effects and all that other marvelous stuff. I'm just going to hit render. And there you have it. There's our little flame with flickering glows. I don't like this part. I'm going to just, on the opacity here, I'm just going to drop it to 60 so it's never at 100. Yeah, so sorry, if we go down to 50 on this, and we change this to 30, it will never get to that full yellow color because it's at 50% and it's only going to add or take away 30%, so the max it can get to is 80 or 20. So I think that looks a little bit nicer. I didn't choose the nicest colors for the backgrounds, obviously. I did better work in my actual video. But yeah, if we hit render now, you can see we've got these sparks flying out of the fire. We got this cool flickering glow, which if we had a detailed background would look even better. And we got this cool fire effect. Obviously we got a problem here where it's coming out in front of the first log, so we would need to knock those down a little bit. Up, sorry. And that should do it. But yeah, there we have it, folks. That's how to make a pretty cool fire effect. And obviously I made it for this nPower film, and it was really subtle in the background. So a lot of love goes into background elements, but I was just having fun with it. This is a cool film as well, by the way. I really enjoyed making this one. Just check that out. Anyways, yeah, that's all for today, folks. If you've liked what you've seen, subscribe and share my channel. Cheers, guys. I'll see you on the next one.